Welcome, everyone. Today I'm here with Chris Miglino, the CEO of SRAX. Chris, wonderful to have you with us today. How are you doing?
It's great to be here with you. I appreciate you guys taking the time to talk to us today.
Absolutely. Well, we're happy to have you here. Very excited to dig into the story of SRAX, talk about a couple of the details that you guys are doing right now, some of your progress, and just hear more about the company in general. Chris, I'd love to start off today. Can you just give us a personal background, overview of the company? Where are you guys at right now, and what's your story coming up to this point? Where has SRAX come from, and you personally as well?
Yeah, so I started SRAX around a little bit more than 10 years ago. We've been a small cap public company that started out on the OTC and made our way up to NASDAQ over the years. And we're in the business of creating software for publicly traded companies that allows them to understand a variety of different things they need to know about their shareholders and to manage the experience of being a public company. I've been in the data business myself for most of my life and aggregating data around different sorts of sectors. We started a business that was around the medical business where we had information on lots of different doctors, and we sold that to a private equity company a few years ago. We then started another company that was focused on consumer privacy. We spun that off to its own public company here recently. And then Sequire, which is the business that's inside SRAX now, has been growing tremendously over the last 2 years and really is the story that we want everybody to know about us.
Great background there. Really looking forward to hearing a little bit more about the details here. So let's dig into it. First and foremost, can you tell me specifically from your perspective, what do you believe contributes most significantly to SRAX's revenue growth?
So over the last 2 years, we've had quarter over quarter growth of our Sequire platform. And most recently, this quarter, we had a substantial growth. We had 125 companies that were on the platform, and we grew that to 183 companies for this quarter. And so that growth of companies signing up onto Sequire is really what's getting us to that EBITDA positive, net income positive place that the Sequire business is on its own today. And that's really our goal, is to continue that trajectory of being EBITDA and net income positive for the company. It makes their lives a lot easier. It provides them tools that are really important for them as a public company. And we invented this because we were a public company that needed these tools. We knew that this was something that we needed. It wasn't just about filing my Ks and filing my Qs. I needed a lot more tools that enabled me to communicate with who my investors were. And then from that, we grew into creating community and creating a living community of investors that our public issuers could tap into. And that's where we are today. And that's really grown, especially over the last 2 years. And then with the advent of the retail investor becoming much more important, as we've seen here, bring information to those retail investors that we know are invested in, technology stocks or EV stocks or fintech stocks, and be able to educate them about different opportunities in the marketplace.
Okay, terrific. And let's kind of spin off of that question a little bit and go a little bit deeper there. I'd like to quickly talk about the acquisition of LD Micro. Do you believe that's helped to increase SRAX's revenue?
Of course. So, as you know, LD Micro is a big brand name in the small cap market space. It has been one of the biggest and best conferences that's been going on for the last 10 years. And we took it and moved it into the virtual world. And so the relationships that LD Micro has enabled us to, more quickly sign up companies for the Sequire platform. So we've been able to tap into those relationships and really leverage that to get people to join on board with us.
Wonderful. Okay, good to hear. And kind of going on a different path from that, but kind of along the same vein of questioning, going into the debt level of SRAX, it's decreased significantly recently. When will the remaining balance of that debt for SRAX be off the balance sheet?
This quarter, as we announced in the quarterly call that we just did, we've reduced our debt level significantly. We're down to around $3.8 million in debt. We started out with around $13 million in debt, and we've reduced that substantially, and that debt is left in the hands of some investors that have been really long-term investors in in SRAX around the last 5 years. So we're really comfortable with that. And, based on the amount of cash that we have on hand. So right now, between our cash and our cash equivalents, we have over $30 million on the balance sheet. So we're in a really good spot.
Okay, great. Well, that's very good to hear. I'd like to dig into that question a little bit more as well, and kind of do a follow-up question. You've given guidance of $23 to $25 million for the year in 2021. That's a huge increase over the last guidance. How confident are you personally in that number for SRAX in the upcoming year?
Yeah. So the way you have to look at it is, if our sales guys didn't sell one more thing today, we would have booked revenue, recognized revenue for the year of $16.5 million. So I think that 23 to 25 million, based on what we have in the pipeline, is more than conservative. So we previously had given guidance of 16 to 17 million dollars for the year, and we're upping that to 23 to 25 million for the year. And we have visibility into this quarter. We had given 5 million for the first quarter. We're reiterating that, and we have 7 million for the second quarter that we've just issued as guidance for Q2 of this year.
Wonderful. Okay, great info there. I'd like to go off on now a bit of a different track and talk about the upcoming Sequire feature launches. What do you feel about these? What's your personal opinion, and what are you most excited about for the upcoming Sequire features?
So I love the things we're building inside Sequire. The most notable thing that we built recently was the shelf calculator. As every CEO of a listed company knows, managing the availability on your shelf, what your shelf availability is if you're in the baby shelf rule, is something that is very, very complex to do and needs to be managed all the time. And so we wanted to create a tool that allowed the CEO, the CFO, and the people working in the finance team to predict where the best opportunity for them to raise money off of that shelf might be. So out of all the things we've built recently, I think that's probably one of the most exciting things that we put out there. We have also is our virtual events platform that would be really amazing. And we're now in a position where we're going to be launching tons of virtual events this year, not only for Sequire, but for banks that we've partnered with that want to use our software and our technology to manage their virtual conferences.
Okay, terrific. Outstanding. And we certainly look forward to watching those features as they come out for Sequire as well.
Forward to having you there.
Absolutely. I'd like to talk a little bit about Big Token for the last question here. Now that you have Big Token broken into its own company, how does that impact the financials of SRAX specifically?
So Big Token is a moonshot idea, right? Like, privacy and the ownership of consumer data is at the forefront right now, and it will be for the next few years. Consumers want to own their own information. We spent a lot of money on building up that business, and that business got to a point where it deserved to be on its own, and it deserved to have its own capital that would not impact the SRAX balance sheet. So we spun it off into its own public company, and they now trade under the symbol FPVD. So it's FPVD, and we own a significant amount of the stock. We own, believe it or not, 149 billion shares. So, if they're successful at accomplishing what they're setting out to do, SRAX is going to benefit significantly. But the thing we're happy about is that the negative income is no longer being from Big Token, is no longer being supported from the SRAX balance sheet, and is being they're using their own capital that we've raised them to take care of their burn.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, Chris, amazing background on Big Token, amazing background on the Sequire features as well. Like I mentioned, we very much look forward to seeing the developments there. And that brings us to the conclusion of the interview. And Chris, just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on, sharing some background there, and giving us some of the future for SRAX. Absolutely wonderful interview and amazing presentation. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate it. We look forward to staying in touch with you guys.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone at SRAX, and thanks, everyone, for joining and watching the interview.